I didn't hear the door, nor was I aware of anyone entering my home until I turned around, finding Tyler, the 20-year-old son of my neighbor, standing in the center of my kitchen. His eyes held an unusual, indecipherable expression. He hadn't knocked or called. He had simply walked in. I recall wiping my hands on a dish towel, stunned, my heart racing for reasons I couldn't fully grasp. I asked him if there was a problem, but initially he remained silent. He just fixed his gaze on me, as though he had been carrying a burden too long, and decided to lay it down right here. Moments later, he spoke, and what he said, the feelings that ensued, I knew my life would never be the same. Before I proceed, I simply want to express my heartfelt gratitude for your presence. To every new subscriber and my devoted returning viewers yet to subscribe, thank you so much. Your support is the driving force behind this channel. If you're drawn to heartfelt narratives like this one, click the subscribe button immediately. Your support means everything to me, and I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments section as I value each one. Let's proceed with our tale. My name is Vanessa. I reside in a tranquil town in Maine, where appearances can be deceiving. Despite the idyllic facade, not all feels harmonious beneath the surface. I have been married to my husband, Mark, for 16 years. On the outside, we may seem like the perfect couple with secure jobs, a charming abode, and no controversies. However, emotionally, we haven't connected in nearly 5 years. We move around each other as if we were specters. Our conversations revolve around practical matters such as work, bills, schedules, groceries, but never delve into our deepest feelings. Living across the street from us is Linda, my long-standing neighbor and confidant. Her son Tyler, who once mowed our lawn during summer breaks, has moved on to college at 18. Back then, he was just a young lad with earphones perpetually plugged into his ears. 2 months ago he returned, no longer a child. He'd grown taller, his voice deepened, but it was the sadness in his eyes that stood out most. An unspoken weight, a mystery prompting questions I ought not ask. Our conversations started subtly, at the mailbox in the yard. Initially, it seemed innocent. He'd help with groceries, fix outdoor lights, even stay for a soda. Lately, though, his gaze towards me felt profound, something Mark no longer noticed. It was on a Tuesday afternoon when I found myself alone at home. Having just finished baking banana bread and cleaning up, that Tyler appeared. "Are you all right?" I questioned, taken aback. He remained silent for a moment, gazing at the kitchen counter before meeting my eyes. In need of comfort, I chose to confide in him. He murmured, whispering. Uncertain who else would listen, I should have urged him to depart, to keep things straightforward. I moved aside and allowed him entry. We settled at the dining table, the silence heavy between us. He gazed directly into my eyes and posed. "Vanessa, don't you sometimes feel like nobody perceives you anymore?" My breath halted in my chest. I recognized that sentiment all too well. Yet before I could speak, he stretched his hand across the table, gently touching mine. It wasn't simply what he did, but the sensation it elicited, a sense of being seen deeply. Then he murmured words I've never forgotten since. In that instant, everything changed. When Tyler spoke, his voice was scarcely louder than a breath. "You are the only one who observes me. You are the only one who makes me feel tangible." I recall my heart racing in my ears. His words struck a chord within me, reviving feelings I had buried for years. Not because they were alluring, but because they were genuine. Because I had once whispered similar sentiments to myself in front of a mirror, when Mark had neglected our anniversary 3 times over the past 3 years. I withdrew my hand gradually. My gaze fell upon the table. I attempted to feign composure, tried to lighten the situation with a chuckle that sounded more like a wheeze. "You're simply fatigued. You've endured quite a lot recently, Tyler. Perhaps you ought to rest." Yet he remained still. His shoulders sagged, showing signs of anticipated rejection but determination nonetheless. I understand what this situation appears to be. I merely needed to confide in someone. Someone who would not perceive me as feeble or fractured. That aspect startled me, because the fact was, I had observed that sadness in his eyes, but I had not seen it as a weakness. Instead, it seemed familiar. Tyler had always been courteous, benevolent, overly perceptive for someone of his age. I never thought he would make such a statement to me. But at that moment, I did not see a boy. I saw someone seeking the same thing. I rose from my seat. I required distance between us. I needed to recollect myself. I walked towards the sink and activated the faucet, yearning for a sound other than my own heart pounding. After perceiving the shift of his chair, he emerged behind me, uncomfortably close. "Vanessa," he began, not with disrespect, but to convey his awareness of me. I turned cautiously, and his gaze was not fueled by desire, but by something more ominous, longing. Moments in life often present themselves as dilemmas cloaked as options, and that moment was one such instance for me. I murmured his name, Tyler, in an attempt to halt him, but it sounded more like a declaration. However, it didn't deter him. Instead, it seemed to confirm something within him. He was ridden with guilt, apologizing repeatedly, asserting he should not have entered and should not have spoken those words. Before I could utter anything further, he left in haste. Alone in the silent kitchen, I trembled not because of any act that had occurred, but due to the close call. An event nearly transpired. That evening, I retired early without completing my chores. Yet sleep eluded me as his words echoed in my mind. I continually recalled his gaze towards me, a sight I hadn't experienced in years. The following morning, I attempted to erase it from my thoughts, return to normality. Yet life seldom allows such forgetfulness. In the third day, Mark returned home unexpectedly. He had cut short his conference and chose to surprise me. As I brewed tea in the kitchen, the doorbell chimed. Upon opening, there stood Tyler once more. However, this time he wasn't alone. Mark followed closely behind him. "Why is he here?" Mark queried, his eyes hardening. Speech eluded me. My hands shook uncontrollably. The most challenging aspect was, I didn't know how to respond. Mark remained in the kitchen doorway, his gaze shifting between me and Tyler. His voice was composed, but his jaw clenched sporadically, causing a knot in my stomach. I asked for an explanation. He responded again. "Why is he here?" Tyler lowered his eyes. I looked away. The ensuing quietness resonated more profoundly than any response we could have offered. I yearned to deceive. To assert Tyler was merely delivering something, requiring aid. It was inconsequential. Yet I couldn't. Not because I desired to confess, but because in that moment, I found myself unable to comprehend the essence of inconsequential anymore. Mark turned to Tyler. "You must depart now." Tyler hesitated briefly before nodding. "Yes, sir," he responded softly, and exited without glancing back. The door clicked shut. Mark remained silent for a while, standing motionless, studying the counter as if solving an equation in his mind. Then he posed a question that left me trembling. "How long has this been occurring?" I moved forward. "Nothing has transpired, Mark, I swear to you." He chuckled, but it was not a genuine laugh. It echoed disbelief laced with pain. "Nothing? Are you suggesting I should believe that?" He looked at me as if questioning my sanity. "Do you think I am oblivious?" However, he wasn't entirely misguided. Nothing overtly physical occurred. Yet emotionally, a fissure appeared. Mark and I could both sense it. The ensuing week was filled with icy silences, furtive glances, and dinners that felt as somber as funerals. 2 weeks on, Linda, Tyler's mother, arrived. Pallor washed her face, tremors her hands. She discovered Tyler's journal and shared a single passage with me. One about a neighboring woman. This woman made him feel less insignificant. She shared his melancholy. She was the woman he had come to care for. Linda remained dry-eyed, regarding me as if I had pilfered something sacred. I had been trusted, she said. We were like kin. Then she departed, never speaking to me again. Mark began sleeping in the spare room, not due to infidelity, but because I was on the verge of it. And that was sufficient to shatter what remained of our fragile bond. I pleaded with him to accompany me to therapy, to strive for our remaining pieces. Deep within him, something had ceased functioning. 3 months passed, and he departed. No infidelity, no dramatic farewell. Instead, it was a quiet resolution that grew more pronounced each day. The neighborhood no longer regarded me in the same light. I was no longer the friendly neighbor, but the woman who almost transgressed with her friend's son's affections. Tyler returned to college after summer, and we never crossed paths again. Yet his words still echo in my mind. You are the only one who makes me feel authentic. And I often ponder what might have unfolded if I hadn't answered that knock. If I hadn't given in to loneliness, certain indiscretions need not leave lasting damage. Sometimes, even fleeting moments can destroy everything. Now, I invite your perspectives. Do you think emotional infidelity is at times more damaging than physical? Should Vanessa be granted forgiveness? Was she a victim of negligence or did she overstep boundaries? Share your opinions in the comments. I read each one attentively. If you were moved by this tale, please hit the like, share buttons and don't forget to subscribe. Your backing ensures our continuity, while your comments bring authenticity to our content. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.